Every single week, I look forward to reading Chainsaw Man Part 2 because, to be honest, you never know what you're going to get. You don't know what absurdity, chaoticness, or just interesting, wacky, fun moments are going to come from it. Sometimes they're really depressing. Sometimes they're really energetic and out there. This time, however, very much unpredictable. I don't think anyone's seen a super Chainsaw Man motorcycle coming into play, yet here it is. Both Denji and Asa riding a motorcycle with a massive chainsaw stuck out the front of it. It's kind of cute, honestly. This is a combination battle between Denji and Asa. They're working together, and how we get to this point is even better. I think a lot of people have issues with Chainsaw Man Part 2 because it's nothing like Part 1. And it's okay to have those issues, those concerns. However you feel is however you feel. But when I see people say that Chainsaw Man's bad, or that it's wasted its potential for this or that, I feel kind of weird about it. Fujimoto has done everything within his capabilities to expand this story within a completely different realm. He's no longer within Weekly Shonen Jump. He's in a place where he can write it freely with however he wants, and you can tell just by the general pacing of the chapters and how they're formulated is very much different to anything that you're probably reading on a weekly schedule. And this is because there's no rules that he has to abide by. He can write the story the way he wants to. And because of this, you get moments that linger. You get moments that sit within the moment. You get to see all of these different interactions and facial expressions that help build the chapters and Chainsaw Man Part 2 as a whole in such a beautiful direction. It makes everything feel alive and more worthwhile to indulge within, at least for myself. So in a sense, chapters like this for a lot of people may be seen as simple or not enough. Yeah, it's got a quirky bike looking thing at the end, but everything leading up towards it is pretty standard. From my perspective, however, and probably for a lot of you that really enjoy Part 2, this is some of the best moments for Asa's character development, how she thinks about herself, the agency that she's currently giving herself, and the direction that she's moving forward within. Asa is a beautiful character, easily one of Fujimoto's best in my opinion, and I think he's doing so well to keep Asa within the forefront of the story alongside all of these other chaotic individuals. We have fake Chainsaw Mans now, which finally has been kind of clarified in a way. We don't know who it is, but at least Asa has now recognized that there's more than one Chainsaw Man. So no more of that weed whacker or whippersnipper type devil that originally was theorized. There is now two Chainsaw Mans. I already have a whole separate theory and video for that if you want to check it out, which explains the process of fake Chainsaw Mans a lot clearer, the point, the purpose, why they're here to begin with, how it correlates with Fami, and basically everything that's going on. But it's nice to have that small clarification from Asa. The more we see of her, however, the more she changes, the more she grows. And funny enough, a lot of the beautiful development that I feel like she has is paired with Chainsaw Man specifically, or even Denji. In my opinion, some of the best moments for Asa is her reflecting or internalizing on certain feelings, thought process, emotions, trauma, history, etc. with Denji in the vicinity. And I think this chapter is a great example of pushing that forward away from that self-destructive reflection. She gets very nervous, she gets very scared, she's so unsure about life and herself and the people surrounding her that she doesn't want to take those risks. So the prior chapters, she was done with life. She was willing to give it up. She was willing to sacrifice it because she was offered an easy way out that wasn't painful. This has changed. This has flipped on its head, and it's because of Denji. Not solely, but it's a main component to her continuing to push forward and to live. Denji is very overwhelming for a lot of people, and when it comes to their relationship between each other, I feel like they draw the best and worst parts from each other. This is a really good thing. It's genuinely healthy. Asa has never had that confrontation before, and if she does, she usually bottles herself up once again. Just think, she was willing to throw all of it away. She basically did, she accepted it. But this chapter now, she's willing to fight, and it's because Denji, or Chainsaw Man right now, is fighting for her survival. He's not giving up, he's not trying to get anything in return as of yet, he's just fighting for her. And if you're trying to think about it from Asa's perspective, it's a first, that someone is doing something for her without wanting anything. It's weird and uncomfortable, but it feels right for her. She feels like it's right. You can tell that her thought process is becoming a lot clearer, a lot more precise. It's definitely buffering, so it's going through the motions, and you have Yoru trying to convince her to kill Chainsaw Man, but she's cemented it already. She knows exactly what she wants to do and how she's starting to think about things. She revives Denji, or at least provides him with a bit of blood. And for me, this is a really big confirmation on her own self-worth, that she really wants to live, and that Chainsaw Man is fighting so hard for her, so she too should fight just as hard. This also wraps really beautiful into the words that she says. After watching Chainsaw Man, she thinks that if a piece of trash like him is allowed to keep living, then maybe it's okay for her to live too. And then she screams for Chainsaw Man to save her. Do you see what I mean though? This isn't designed by Chainsaw Man or something that he's pushing forward. It's just him acting off of impulse, something that Asa can't really do because she gets stuck within her head. So she's watching all of this unravel, watching this person fight so strongly for her, and she believes that if he's able to be this way, act the way that he does, then maybe it's okay for her to be that way too. To live, to want to live, to thrive, to be selfish in a lot of different departments. And it's scary. And of course that thought process is there, but giving her this agency, giving her this power is incredible to see. I would say this is the second time that you're seeing it come full circle. The first, that it's so impactful and empowering and most likely will change the way she views the world from here on out, but she's really taking it into her own to make this decision. It's no one else's. She wants to live. And it's kind of because of that reflection of Chainsaw Man. A majority of the chapter is filled with a chase sequence, which is kind of cute, very chaotic and all over the place. This worm is really trying hard to devour Asa, so Denji is doing his best to keep her away. I really love this combat dynamic that they have. I love it in general, of course, but seeing them analyzing the fight and Denji being rather, I guess, responsive to how he's feeling, saying that he's getting tired or that he can't escape, very typical of him, but Asa isn't panicking. She isn't overloading or overwhelmed with information. She's trying to figure out her own route of survival going through Chainsaw Man, obviously, so she's giving out options, opinions, ideas. She says to steal this motorcycle that's driven by a woman, typical Denji fashion. He's like, nah, that's thievery. I'm not doing that. That's her bike, but there's a guy riding a bike. Dunzo. He takes it, kicks the guy off and steals the bike. So you still get that quirky interaction just to balance everything out nicely, but they feel so beautifully molded together. Like they're so used to it now. Obviously there's still a panic and a pressure above it, but it's a lot more open. There's a lot more thought going into this stuff. And this is where you get to see the weird Chainsaw Man motorcycle that gets born from Asa's abilities. Now, even though this concludes the chapter, I'm curious if she has mixed her abilities together in a sense, right? So basically her ability works off the guilt that she feels towards it. So if she turns something into a weapon, there's a guilt that resides there by turning it into a weapon. The stronger that guilt, the more powerful that weapon. And you can kind of manipulate this in a way that becomes more beneficial to turn things into weapons, right? Because there's no real parameters or guidelines, it's just guilt. So you could artificially create that guilt or put yourself in a position to make that guilt. So kicking the guy off the bike, stealing it and running away is a guilt in itself, but I wonder if she's also pulling a little bit from maybe how she feels towards Chainsaw Man. Maybe she feels bad about putting him through this situation and using that to manifest it onto this bike. She is hugging him, she's holding on for dear life because they're riding this bike being chased by all these tentacles, but the weapon is the biggest thing that she's able to form so far. And I don't think just her stealing a bike would actually produce it. I think there is genuine guilt and concern and worry that she had for Chainsaw Man doing all of this for her. And saying that, it could also be reflected inwards. We don't really know the semantics of that, but feeling guilty about wanting something or feeling a certain way could also produce a certain type of weapon as well. Obviously not on your own body, but maybe you could redirect it to something else. Maybe you feel bad about turning this into a weapon because originally you felt this way. Does that make sense? It kind of slowly opens up the abilities a little bit more, but not to the extent of being confusing. If anything, this motorcycle bike is kind of funny and generally looks pretty powerful too. It manages to slice through one of the worm tentacles. Leaving it here, however, is typical Fujimoto fashion, typical unsure on what's going to happen next, but nonetheless enjoyable. Honestly, it just feels refreshing. It feels nice to sit down and read it, kind of take everything in, see the beautiful artwork, and just wait for the next chapter. Now, unfortunately, we don't get a chapter next week. I think the next one is on the 24th. So a little bit upsetting, but usually that 2-week wait is accompanied by some pretty flashy artwork, whether it's a big double spread or a lot of moving parts, etc. So I'm excited to see where we go from here, because they can escape, they can try and leave this realm, but they have been given the tools to be able to win. And that's just to run, to get away and hide. And if that is the case, if they decide to hide away in like a building or something where they can't be followed, you'll probably get some pretty intimate moments between the two. I don't know if Denji would necessarily reveal himself. I don't know if Yoshida is just around the corner ready to swoop in and not allow him to do that, which is kind of funny. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get a nice conversation between the two if they're able to find that downtime, if they're able to escape. Not to mention we still have a primal fear that's kind of just floating around, so we haven't really seen her angry. Will she get to that point? I don't really know. Also the fake chainsawmans, the mysterious people, whatever Yoshida and Fami are doing. There's just a lot of things that aren't in play currently that could easily contort this situation into something else. For me, it's refreshing. I love it. And I'm always excited to see what's going to come next.